Virtual Immigrating to Canada conference. My name is Marc Belaiche. I know there's just another session that's just finishing up here, so we're just going to give that just a couple of minutes to set up, and we are on the main stage here at the Virtual Immigrating to Canada conference. Hopefully you're enjoying the event. It's been fun. Been networking through the networking area, been meeting a lot of people from all over the world, which is kind of cool. Obviously, at this kind of event, people want to know about Canada and what's happening. So we'll just start in about 30 seconds or so, as I just see another event just wrapping up. So once that's wrapped up, we're gonna start, and I'll introduce the panel. And by the way, feel free to post some information about yourself in the stage area or in the event chat if you have any questions you'd like to ask the panel. You want to just say hi, you want to introduce yourself, by all means, you can do that as well. So, excuse me, we're just going to wait just another 20 seconds or so, and then we're going to start, get the signal back. Okay. All right. Okay, Benjamin, are you there?
I'm here.
Terrific. Okay, great. So welcome back to the Virtual Immigrating to Canada conference. My name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. Thanks very much for taking the time to be at this event. We're going to introduce the panel shortly. If you have any questions for the panel, you can put them in the chat area on the right-hand side, and I'm happy to moderate any questions that you have. So this is your opportunity to ask questions live. We have a great panel. We can talk about all kinds of different questions that you might have, situations, experiences, and so on. So I'm going to introduce our panel right now. Benjamin Krantz is Canadian corporate immigration lawyer. Benjamin, welcome. And perhaps you can introduce yourself, a little bit about what you do, the kind of work that you're involved with.
Yes, as you heard, I'm a Canadian corporate immigration lawyer. When we say corporate immigration, typically we're talking about work permits. Of course, many people on this call, on this session, are interested in permanent residence ultimately, but we deal with primarily the work permits. We deal with the permanent residence too, but there is that stepping stone for many people, and sometimes it's overlooked as a way to ultimately get the permanent residence goal. But the other thing I would say is that what people sometimes fail to appreciate in the system is that work permits, by and large, start with the employer. So even if you're an employee out there, you have to work with your employer to get the ball rolling and work from there. But so this is what we deal with primarily, and hopefully that helps people ultimately to get permanent residence.
Terrific. And where are you located as well, Benjamin?
In Toronto.
In Toronto. Okay, terrific. Stephen Chase is Manager of Settlement and Multiculturalism with the Government of New Brunswick. Thanks very much for being here, Stephen. And perhaps you can introduce yourself and maybe talk about the province as well for people who may not know where New Brunswick is.
Yes, for sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Chase. I actually have two roles with the Government of New Brunswick. We're within an agency called Opportunities New Brunswick. The first part of my job is we provide funding to community organizations to provide services to newcomers after they arrive, and actually before they arrive as well. To Benjamin's point about the work permit, I also manage a provincial nominee stream for the province, which is a business immigration stream. So we just relaunched it in January, and so that program is you can apply for a 2-year work permit to come and establish and operate a business, hopefully successfully within a period of time, minimum investments and things of that nature. And then, if so, we would put a nomination certificate and allow someone to apply for permanent residency. So there's a small subset of work permits for those that qualify for self-employment, as it would be. So the two hats, the funding to agencies to provide services to newcomers, and then the provincial nominee business immigration.
Excellent. Well, thanks very much for being on. And Dinesh Sharma, founder and CEO, Brilliant Minds Group. And I just want to ask the panelists if you can mute your microphone when you're not speaking, because I'm getting some a little bit of feedback as well. Dinesh Sharma, can you hear me, Dinesh? Okay, maybe we might come back to Dinesh here. Simran Kaur is lawyer at Simran Kaur, Barrister and Solicitor. Simran, thanks for being on here. Welcome.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone, once again, and welcome to everyone else. I am a lawyer, and I recently started practicing back in 2019. So, yes, there's a lot to learn and a huge learning curve here. What I basically do is work on general visa applications, any questions about permanent residency applications, refugee claimants who are coming in, and humanitarian compassionate applications so far. And I am a new mom, so I'm quite excited about that role. So I'm trying to manage my work along with my 5-month-old baby, and I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Well, thanks to the three of you. We're having some technical issues with Dinesh, so he will come back soon. So if you have any questions for anyone on the panel, feel free to post them in the event or in the stage area in the chat, and I'll be able to moderate them from here. So welcome, and lots to talk about. So obviously, COVID has been the big story. What's been going on? What's really happening right now as of today, June 2nd? Benjamin, what are you seeing? What's going on? What's for someone looking to come to Canada? What should they expect? What's happening? Are they in limbo, or are things moving? What's going on?
You expect me to answer this in half an hour, huh?
3 minutes.
Okay. Well, yeah, obviously there are various issues that are going on. And as I mentioned, I deal primarily with work permits. I think from the work permit point of view, and we can touch on the permanent residence in a second, but for the work permits, the system, in, let's say, March 2020, when all this began, people were confused on how do we do it and can I get a work permit and all these things. And still, there are certain bumps in the road, there's no doubt. But it's kind of settled into a system that we understand, I would venture to say. That doesn't mean it's always an easy system, but we understand it. And work permits are still available depending on various factors. So if people do have the opportunity to come work in Canada, they have an employer that's quote unquote sponsoring them, et cetera, they may still be eligible. I think there's also confusion in the issue of quarantine, which is separate from the issue of the ability to enter Canada. We talk about essential services. That's more where the quarantine comes into play, and people need to recognize, yes, even if you can get a work permit, doesn't mean you can avoid the quarantine. So this is something that I think that we've sort of, it's evolved, and we've kind of, the system is in place and we understand it better. Permanent residents, those that are abroad, are having a hard time to get here. There's no doubt about that. I think the Canadian government, if you look at the statistics for the express entry draws, which are the primary means to get permanent residence in Canada, certainly there are plenty of others, including provincial nominees. But if you look at that, you'll see that the Canadian government has been drawing primarily on people that are already physically in Canada. So these are I would say, some of the issues we've been seeing through the COVID period.
Perfect. And Simran, what are you seeing? What's impacted you? What's been happening?
No, just to follow up, I agree with Benjamin, what he's saying about, at least for the PR applications, they are experiencing some backlogs, of course. And, but again, as to what Benjamin said, they're trying to integrate the people who are already in Canada and get them fast-tracked onto PR applications. For example, the new limited temporary permanent residency path for people who are in healthcare and essential non-healthcare services and graduates from Canadian universities. So we are seeing that, the immigration has not as much stopped. It's just a little bit halted in the past year and a half, a bit slow, I would say, but the numbers are still coming in. That's my stance on it right now.
Excellent. Yeah. And Stephen, anything to add to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, similar. IRCC, my colleagues at IRCC, or Immigration Refugee Citizens of Canada, are doing their best, like we all are, to adapt and pivot and adjust. And with that, it can be a bit messy at the best of times. But to Benjamin's point, also about entry, like I mentioned about the self-employment for, say, example, our business stream program, and entry is at CBSA, Canadian Border Services. So they're the ones that really determine if you are eligible as that essential piece. But for a business entrepreneur, you would be admissible if you were buying a business. But if you were coming to start a business, you probably wouldn't qualify as an essential thing. So there are lots of different nuances, and probably both Benjamin everyone that's involved in immigration really are kind of navigating these changes as they come, because it is a very fluid and dynamic situation. I do think, some of the measures that IRCC is putting into place, where they're imaging documents rather than paper-based, they put in a new system. I think in the long term, outside of the major disruption that's happening right now, things could be better on the other end.
And what would you, if there was a business, what kind of business would be more attractive versus less attractive, or is there, or it doesn't matter? Are there certain industries that are more interesting for possibilities?
Well, for the purposes of our program, obviously we want people to be successful. So if you had a medical degree, a medical background, no entrepreneur or ownership experience, and you wanted to set up a restaurant, not to say that you couldn't do it, but we would want to see an alignment between whatever it is you've done in the past and what you intend to do relatively close in terms of what you're going to do here in New Brunswick.
Terrific. Okay, well, thanks for the perspective. So we have somebody new in the constant musical chairs here kind of thing. We've got new people, a new person. So Jerusalem,
yes.
Thanks very much for being here. Owner, licensed consultant, Burhan Immigration and Settlement Services, Inc.
Yes.
So missed a little bit about the beginning. So maybe we can just backtrack a little bit, and maybe you can talk a little bit about yourself, what you do, what kind of work you're involved with, and how you might be able to help somebody who's looking to immigrate to Canada.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. Sorry, guys, I was watching you actually, but I couldn't join the panel. But I was watching. I was listening from outside. So thank you, Alex, for your help. Just so a little bit about me. I'm an immigration consultant based here in London, Ontario, and I have offices in Woodstock, and virtually working from other places as well. So my practice is, right now I'm doing all kinds of immigration, to be honest, except refugee claimants. I do study permits, humanitarian and compassion, and group of 5 and community sponsorships and study permits, as well as LMIA. We're doing that as well, especially now with the new public policies for people trying to stay in as a permanent residence, and also farmers trying to get somebody to come into Canada because of the shortage of labor, as you all already know. So it is very exciting. I've been doing this a little bit now for over 20 years, working a lot with government-sponsored refugees to London, Ontario, and working with international students with universities and so on. So it is very exciting. I love it. Every day is a challenge. So thank you, everybody, for this is very exciting. I look forward to hearing more.
Terrific. Well, thanks for being here. So just general broad question, and open to anybody on the panel, but if you were from another country and knowing what you know now, what would you suggest that they do if they're looking to move to Canada? What's the first thing, second thing, third thing? What are some things they should know? Perhaps things that aren't publicly knowledgeable, or public information, for example. What would you suggest?
I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah,
Kidding. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, go
ahead. I deal a lot with clients from Middle East and Africa, and from that part of the world, it seems like Canada everything is easy. Money comes in easy, jobs come in easy. It's not the case. So I always say to clients, it's not easy. You're gonna have to work so hard to earn to get to where you want. The thing is, if you work hard at it, you can get what you want. You can find jobs. You can earn the money that you want. But it doesn't come in easy. That's not what Canada is. The way it looks like from outside.
Well, I was just going to say, I think first of all, what you just heard from Jerusalem, I believe, is correct. But besides that, I think most people that are looking at immigration from outside Canada end up looking primarily at the main program, which is the express entry. They say, do I have enough points or not? And they kind of live and die with that assessment. But there are other avenues to seek. Of course, our colleague from New Brunswick has mentioned the things that happen in New Brunswick, and I love New Brunswick, but there are also other provincial nominee programs that are out there that sometimes offer opportunities for people depending on occupation, depending on, in some cases, again, if you're sponsored by an employer. And coming back to, I guess what is my main theme is that there are often work permit routes that are overlooked that can sometimes help people as a stepping stone to the ultimate goal. And for instance, just one, people aren't aware sometimes that if you are a French speaker destined for any province other than Quebec, and you get a job offer in certain types of jobs, I don't know how much detail you want to get into, but plenty of job types, you can get a work permit, and that work permit ultimately can be turned into permanent residence a little bit down the road. That's just one example.
Yeah, it's true. And to David's, listen to David talk about, he talked about English and French in Quebec, and New Brunswick's the only official bilingual province in the country, but it is a nation of two official languages. So in terms of skill development, I try to learn French as best as I can, but what to know before you arrive. Canada, and we try to say we're the best in the world at this. We do what we do, but we try to make what works for us. Different countries are in different circumstances, but just at the federal level, the government invests $1 billion a year on supports and services for newcomers. And then you add in what the provincial contributions are, it's significant. And these are good programs and based on statistics. So IRCC looks at everyone that they've nominated, put a permanent resident application, and everybody who's accessed settlement services, and they survey them and find out their outcomes. And the people that access settlement services have better outcomes than the ones that don't. So you may not be aware of government-funded services. Rebecca, your panelist, the presenter earlier today, worked for an organization. I would like to have, at no cost to me, support of someone like Rebecca. I mean, these outcomes will be much better if you utilize these services, and to David's point about pre-arrival, to do them in a state of comfort in the place where your home is before you get here. Start that sooner rather than later would be my recommendation about what to do before you get here.
Great. Anyone else want to add? Simran?
No, I agree with what Benjamin and Stephen said about, how you can actually access other revenues. And one point I wanted to mention was that, we saw recently that the cutoff for immigration for PR applications was a whole lot less than before. And a lot of people don't come to know about it. They see, when they go online and they apply and they see on the kind of points they're getting, the CRS comprehensive ranking score that they're getting, it's below the cutoff. But in the past, we've seen that they have actually gotten acceptance at a lower level. So I would encourage people to not be disheartened with that cutoff level at all times. You must apply and see if you are closer to that cutoff. If you are, then I still encourage to apply. And as Benjamin said, work permit is another revenue, and of course, if you actually can arrange employment, you do get points for that as well. So that's one category that a lot of people, when they're applying for PR application, they overlook that. They think once they do apply, then they look for work when they come here. But you could look for work before. If you do have an employer, you could get points for that as well. That's all I want to add for now.
Excellent. So we have about 10 minutes left in the panel. And just if you have any questions for anybody on the panel, feel free to post them in the event or in the stage area, and I'm happy to moderate and ask. Get them in quickly because 10 minutes goes by very fast. My name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. The panel, Simran Kaur is lawyer at Simran Kaur, Barrister and Solicitor. Stephen Chase is manager of settlement and multiculturalism at the government of New Brunswick. Dinesh Sharma, who has dropped off here as founder and CEO of Brilliant Minds Group. Benjamin Krantz is a Canadian corporate immigration lawyer. And Jerusalem is owner, licensed consultant, Burhan Immigration and Settlement Services, Inc. So just coming back to, maybe immigration as a whole, I know the goals were 1.2 million over 3 years, about 400,000 in 2021, 2022, and 2023 each year. Where are we at now? Can anybody comment on kind of the numbers? Is everything on hold? Are people still coming? I know there's no planes allowed from, say, India for now. Anybody have any feel as to what the numbers are or what might happen? Are they going to make up for lost time perhaps in the back half of this year?
Well, I will venture to start. First of all, I will say that I want to go back on one point from Simran just before I do that. And I think a lot of people don't appreciate one point in the express entry system, which is that, as Simran said, you can get points for having quote unquote arranged employment. And people think that's just any old job offer, but they do need to understand that there is some need to go through for the employer to go through a process to be eligible for those points. And people often overassess their points because of that misunderstanding. But in any event, that's just, it's out there. And it's, as Simran said, it's a good opportunity, but just to recognize the details of that. But anyway, back to this point, I'm someone that deals more in trees than forests. So I don't always pay attention necessarily to whether we've met our target for the year or not. I worry more just about getting the individuals I'm dealing with and their concerns. But I think one statistic that's often overlooked, I mean, the statistics you're referencing presumably are for permanent residents. But what we don't know, or we don't often talk about, and back to my favorite point, is that the number of foreign workers in Canada at any given moment, I think we issue something like 250,000 work permits a year. So yet again, that's something that people overlook. They just go directly to the permanent residents, and there is plenty of opportunity for work permits that ultimately lead to permanent residence. Yes, it might take you an extra year or two to get there, but it's better than not getting anything at all. So it's a way to get through the system. That would be my comments.
Great. Stephen?
I can say from the provincial nominee standpoint, despite all the disruption, at least in terms of processing applications, we're on track with what our allocations are for this year. We're well on pace despite the disruption. Whether people can actually get here, and a lot will go the temporary work permit route to kind of as an interim basis, either through the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Project or other measures. But at the federal level, about hitting that target, even though the IRCC is doing some measures internally to kind of fill their quota, there are problems downstream, like access to language tests to be able to qualify, access to doctors to be able to do your health check. So even though people are in country, there will still be other pieces that will need to be worked out to be able for those high-level IRCC federal programs to achieve what they're trying to do.
Great. Let me ask you this. I know it's come up in the past on this event in the past, and that is Canada is such a broad country, and there's pockets of cost of living is a lot higher in one area, for example, Toronto, than another area. Is there a rule of thumb that you give to people, that you tell people, plan on spending this much, or plan on having X number of dollars, or some kind of rule of thumb? Is there anything that any of you can share, or some numbers that you kind of say, here's what you should have? Nobody wants to take that one?
Well, I'll just mention briefly that not only would we share that, but the federal government actually regulates how much money you need for quote unquote settlement funds in various types of applications. I don't have the figures exactly in my head. I believe if you're one person, it's something you need to come with. Someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but it's something in the neighborhood of $16,000 or something, or am I thinking of the wrong number? But something around that, plus additional money for each specific person you have. But those settlement funds can be waived if you're already physically working in Canada. So just some things to think about. But yeah, certainly you do need to come prepared to live for 6 months. Usually they suggest. So that's just what I would comment.
I mean, I think, Marc, you would be well versed to say what the average length of a job search is. You might need to extend that for someone new to a country, but 6-8 months, but I do know, going back to that pre-arrival programs, like Rebecca Access Employment in Toronto, the people that participated in those programs, so there was for IT, HR, a whole host of different industries, they were able to get employment quite quickly after. And some of the programs I've managed in the past, pre-arrival programs, people getting employed quite quickly, like a few weeks, a few months. So another reason to, when you're able to get access to those, either federal or any provinces have services to access them, because it can speed up that process.
And so we all know, being here, that Canada has so many different provinces and areas. And obviously, Stephen, you're going to be pro on New Brunswick settling. But what factors should someone think about when they're thinking about where to settle? I mean, there's so many different areas within Canada. Is there a website perhaps somebody can go on, or are there some tips, a checklist, something to say, hey, go here versus here versus here? Anything like that, Stephen? How do you promote New Brunswick to say, come here because these are the things about New Brunswick versus going to another province?
Yeah, well, we of course talk about those cost of living differences in other places, the fact that it's fully bilingual. I'll reference a story of a gentleman that I met through a pre-arrival service. So at my former organization called JVS Toronto, an employment agency, they have a pre-arrival mentorship program. So once you're of a certain stage, you can access the service. I was connected to this gentleman who worked for a globally recognized entrepreneur, originally from Morocco, this individual was, but they spent some time in London. And he just basically said, I was tired with my wife and 2 small children riding the tube. And he likes to kiteboard and he likes to snowboard. And so he sort of made a commitment to their family, being from Morocco, to find a place where it was bilingual, so their children could experience both English and French, and to not ride the tube as much. And so it's really dependent upon what you want to do. And I guess to that point, the default is to the larger centers, but some research does show that people that go to smaller places can fare better because, when I lived in Toronto for a number of years and I moved to New Brunswick, I was the odds-on favorite for the current job that I had because I came from a market with a bigger experience. And so that's really what those smaller places outside of the larger centers can offer people. And that's what I would put to people.
Great point, yeah. And we just have a couple of minutes. Jerusalem, maybe you can share a story of somebody that you work with that, that can paint the picture of somebody coming to Canada and settlement and so on.
Yeah, so in my case, the one that I can say now is the refugee, because there have not been the federal skilled work nominee yet since COVID. So we haven't seen anybody coming on my side anyway. The permanent residence has been for people that are already here, or even the work permit with LMIAs have been more for people that have been here. But coming as a refugee to Canada is that, first of all, they don't require that much of a fund, but their family members here do. So the government has been very strict in making sure that there is enough settlement funds for the family once they come here and settle. And you're right, we've encouraged families to move into smaller communities because the job opportunities are much better there and the expense is much less, for example, in comparison from London and Toronto or Woodstock area, for example. So that's what we encourage them. And then there is a well-prepared documents to help them in what they need to do to settle here in Canada, their languages, how to look for jobs. So it has been, great on my side to get them to settle here in Canada, and the jobs come in very easy since COVID. So they've been able to be employed, not dependent so much on their sponsors, but the government has a great system in making sure the funds are there so that when they come here, they don't depend on the welfare system. So that has been good on my side, yes.
Terrific. Okay, so we only have a couple of minutes here. So go real quick around to each person. Just how does someone get hold of you? So Benjamin, how does someone get hold of you?
The easiest thing is by email, bkrantz@kranzlaw.com. That's BKRANC, like Charlie, at KRANCLAW.com.
Okay, great. Stephen?
The website would be welcome, NB as in New Brunswick.ca.
Simran?
Hi, my website, www.simklaw.ca. I can share that information with you, Marc. I mean, my information is on my website, so you can connect.
Terrific. And Jerusalem?
It would be, mine would be email would be the easiest one. It's info@berhan, BERHAN, immigration.com.
Terrific. Thanks so much to all of you for being on the panel. Thanks to everybody to be at today's event, the Virtual Immigrating to Canada Conference. Today's event is presented by TorontoJobs.ca and TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca, powered by Event Logic with a K.ca. Again, my name is Marc Belaiche. I'm president of TorontoJobs.ca. The panelist, Simran Kaur, lawyer at Simran Kaur, Barrister and Solicitor. Stephen Chase, manager, settlement and multiculturalism at the government of New Brunswick. Benjamin Krantz, Canadian corporate immigration lawyer, and Jerusalem Burhan is owner licensed consultant at Burhan Immigration and Settlement Services, Inc. How did you like the event? Let us know. We'll send you a survey in the next 24 hours to complete after the event so you can let us know what's going on and what you think can be improved for next time. I want to thank all the speakers, all the panelists again, the team as well behind the scenes. There are a lot of people, Sandra, Sarah, Alex, Rachel, Ann, Carla, and more. Thanks very much for that. TorontoJobs.ca is a sponsor today. If you want to check out our website for some job openings, perhaps you might be interested in something, or at least getting an idea as to what's going to be there. You can also check out my book called Tales from the Recruiter. It's available at talesfromtherecruiter.ca and TorontoEntrepreneurs.ca. If you are a business owner, you have a business, you're thinking about continuing that business in Canada, make sure to visit the website, and Event Logic with a K.ca if you'd like to have your organization or services highlighted. There's speaker, sponsor, and exhibitor options available as well. Now we have lots of social media on TorontoJobs.ca that you can connect with on our link tree. I'm going to just put that in the event chat on the right-hand side. And you can also subscribe to our TorontoJobs.ca YouTube channel. There's over 200 videos there that may be of interest to you as well. And again, visit talesfromtherecruiter.ca if you're interested in getting a book that will outline how to get a job in Canada as well. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well with my link. So we do tack on an extra 10 minutes at the end of this event. So you still have some time to check into the networking area, maybe visit our expo area and kind of hang out as well. Thanks for coming. See you at the next event. Check out TorontoJobs.ca/news for information about our upcoming events, or Event Logic with a K.ca. And thanks again to each of you for being on the panel, and stay safe.